LiberalViewer presents.
So, welcome to the November 21st edition of LiberalViewer Monday Media Mixup. Thanks for joining me. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you like what I'm doing. And that is, like today, what I'm doing is showing you the 12 best most newsworthy clips I picked out from the Sunday morning news analysis shows from the big five corporate outlets of ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox News, the so-called corporate media here in the United States, for which would be really informative, educational, fair use media criticism and political commentary show for you all today. As you can see from the video title, the big topic of the week is Trump is back on Twitter running for president. He also has a special counsel investigating him now from the Justice Department. I will be discussing all of that. And for the political comedy, well, you may remember last week that I showed Saturday Night Live making fun of the way that the Rupert Murdoch-owned media has turned away from Trump now that he's kind of a loser from the midterms, and they're much more on the side of Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida. And, of course, that could all change if the political winds change. But one of the ways you can tell that Fox News is not really on Team Trump is one of Trump's best friends at Fox News, Hannity, had his show during Trump's announcement that he's running for president, and they didn't take the. I'm going to show you about 40 minutes in. They just got tired, which I'll show you. This is what was playing on Hannity last Tuesday when Trump was announcing his he was supposed to give a 45-minute speech, and he went like over an hour, and I don't know, maybe that's why, or anyway, because they were expecting to have like some time at the end for commentary, but they like decided not to wait for the end, as you can see, as Trump is like going off like some meandering thought about, does anyone remember Angela Merkel? Well, first you'll see he's reading from the teleprompter about the socialist Green New Deal, and it's a lot of people said low energy. Look at the reading at the beginning of this clip, and then I guess it's so bad that even Hannity couldn't watch it, which I'll talk about with you a little more after we watch that clip together over here.
The socialist disaster known as the Green New Deal, which is destroying our country, and the many crippling regulations that it has spawned, will be immediately terminated so that our country can again breathe and grow and thrive like it should. It's very, very much hurting our country. Germany tried it, Germany tried it. They were up for about a year. Remember I sent to Angela. Remember Angela? Do you remember Angela? Nobody's remembering her now. Angela Merkel.
Right, just joining us, President Trump in Mar-a-Lago announcing his 2024 presidential run. We're going to go back to the speech in just a minute. Let's get some quick snap reaction first from Pete Hegseth, who's been watching along with us. Pete, he went through every issue of success.
And they said they were going back in a minute. They actually went back in 12 minutes. 12 minutes. That was like 40 minutes into Hannity, and they didn't come back to like 52 minutes into Hannity, and then I think that was basically, they were expecting a 45-minute speech, and when Trump showed no sign of slowing down, they decided to get their commentators in there while he was still speaking. Or maybe it's a sign of Fox News moving away from Trump, or it may be a sign, like I said, the speech itself wasn't that great. It was low energy, and there was like this one part I was thinking, I saw one of my biggest fans for the live shows, Seal Beater there, talking about Biden giving a 1-hour speech. Well, Biden actually did a 1-hour news conference right after the midterms, and I thought he looked pretty on the ball, and he didn't have a moment like Trump had where he seemed to think that he was president for decades. Did you see that part? Like, if Biden had done this, they would have said it was like a sign of dementia. In fact, I also took that clip from his speech earlier in Hannity. This may be why Hannity cut away, and I'll talk about it a little more after we watch it together over here.
My opponents made me out to be a warmonger and just a terrible person who would immediately go into war. They said during the 2016 campaign that if he becomes president, there will never be a war within weeks, and we will have wars like you've never seen before. It will happen immediately, and yet I've gone decades without a war, the first president to do it for that long a period. The world was...
They cheered that. I mean, we know what he's trying to say, and he's like having problems with his teleprompter or reading the teleprompter. He's saying he's like the first president in decades that didn't start a war during his presidency. And I don't know, that's kind of true. I mean, unless you count the Civil War he sort of started on January 6th with the storming of the Capitol or the insurrection. That, I don't know, I think that maybe ruins his record there, but it's true that he was more of an isolationist. I mean, he did, I don't want to go into his whole foreign policy, but I mean, the lesson of that last clip isn't that Donald Trump has dementia or that he doesn't even, he's like, he doesn't have that speech memorized. He's reading it, and it's really hard to, like, public speaking is hard. It's something I've done many times. And, you know, you memorize your talking points, or you memorize what you want to say, or you read a script, or you go back and forth between the two. And, like, sometimes you're, like, reading something that doesn't, and you don't read it right, and it comes out. I'm not saying that Trump has dementia. Just like, I mean, Biden not only, you know, gets into those public speaking problems sometimes, but he also has, like, a stutter. So he sometimes doesn't get his words right. But I don't know what Donald Trump's excuse was in that last clip. But anyway, those were kind of the two political comedy clips. Although I also am going to, well, I'm going to talk about Trump's Twitter later, which is kind of a joke. But before I do that, I'm going to show you the 5 news summaries in order from longest to shortest. The longest news summary this week, they all covered, well, generally they covered the Trump announcement and the special counsel being appointed to investigate Trump. And of course, this was Sunday morning, so they all covered the breaking news, or mostly covered the breaking news of this shooting at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And you'll see Pierre Thomas, the ABC News justice correspondent, comes on with Jon Karl to talk both about the special counsel appointment and the shooting in Colorado Springs, which I will talk about with you a little more after we watch this longest of the news summaries. I don't know, is it the best one? Well, we'll see when we juxtapose all 5 of them, but here's the ABC News summary, which was longest this week, that I'll talk about with you a little more after we watch together over here.
Good morning and welcome to This Week. As we come on the air, it's becoming clear American politics and American justice are on a collision course. First, the moment many Republican leaders had hoped to avoid. The former president who sparked an insurrection and led their party to lose in places they almost certainly would have won, announced he is running for president yet again. Second, Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed a special counsel to oversee 2 separate and unrelated cases that have one thing in common. Both could lead to indictments of Donald Trump. Looking at the political calendar and the legal calendar, it's not inconceivable that the trial of a former president and a campaign by that former president could be happening at the very same time. We've used words unprecedented and extraordinary a lot over the past 6 years or so, but we've never seen anything remotely like that in all of American history. It's all happening against the backdrop of midterm elections that have brought a divided Congress and uncertainty about what Republicans can accomplish with their razor-thin majority in the House, or even whether their leader, Kevin McCarthy, can get the 218 votes he needs to become Speaker of the House. We're going to discuss it all with House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff and former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan in a moment, but we begin with new reporting on the investigations now being overseen by a special counsel. ABC News Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas joins us now. Good morning, Pierre. What do we know? How did we get to this extraordinary moment?
John, you're right, extraordinary. That's how the normally understated Attorney General described the situation. And the situation we find ourselves in is severe. The former president of the United States is now the target of 2 criminal investigations. There's no guessing. The Justice Department clearly suspects there was an illegal effort, potentially a conspiracy, to intentionally and criminally block the peaceful transfer of presidential power to Joe Biden after the 2020 election that culminated in that vicious attack on the Capitol on January 6th. If so, was Donald Trump a willing participant? Second, did Donald Trump direct the unlawful removal of presidential records and classified documents from the White House as he was leaving power? Was national security compromised, John? And did Trump, once the removal was discovered, intentionally try to obstruct the investigation?
And Pierre, Merrick Garland wouldn't be doing this, would he, if indictments of Donald Trump weren't a real possibility?
Well, John, this much I can tell you. These investigations have been going on for weeks. So this is not a surprise to anyone. So clearly the Attorney General suspects there's a potential that an indictment could come. No final decision has been made, but he wants this done by the book so that someone who is seen as somewhat independent can look at this evidence, oversee the final stages of these investigations, and make perhaps one of the most consequential calls in anybody's memory.
Pierre, let me turn to the horrific news overnight, a mass shooting at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs. What more do you know about what happened?
John, another mass shooting in America. 5 people killed, at least 18 injured. The suspect is in custody in the hospital. We still don't know the motive, but the FBI is assisting, and obviously, until the motive is confirmed, they'll look at whether this was a hate crime because it was in an LGBTQ nightclub. John, this is the 601st mass shooting so far this year. The pace is slightly down from last year, but there's been a dramatic surge since 2019 when there were only 417. That's a stunning 44% increase. Sadly, mass shootings where 4 or more people are shot or killed in a single incident or location have become routine in this country, John.
Pierre Thomas, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
We're joined now by Intelligence Committee Chairman Congressman Adam Schiff.
And I will have a clip of Representative Adam Schiff responding to questions both about the appointment of a special counsel to investigate Donald Trump and also Trump's reinstatement on Twitter. By the way, if you want to see down in the video description, I put under media mentioned, I have short summaries of all 12 clips I'm using, and also there are a few archive tweets I'm going to refer to after clip 8, but you can, and clip 8 is actually the Adam Schiff tweet, or I'm sorry, the Adam Schiff questioning by Jon Karl that's going to be coming up after we watch the news summaries. We just watched the first one, ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, and Pierre Thomas, I think he was the only one to really put this breaking news from Colorado Springs about the nightclub shooting into the context of how many mass shootings there have been, where 4 or more people are shot or whatever. But honestly, if you're talking about gun deaths, I think every year about 50,000 people die of gunshot wounds in the United States, but I think something like 30,000 of those people committed suicide with a gun. So like the largest amount of gun deaths in the United States are from suicide, and that's one of the things that should really be put in context that no one ever mentions in any of these stories. But at least Pierre Thomas put the latest mass shooting in Colorado Springs in the context of the number of mass shootings. Anyway, the next news summary is NBC News Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, pretty much covering the same things you saw from ABC, just about a minute shorter, and I will talk about that with you a little more after we watch that second news summary together over here.
Monday morning, we are following the breaking news reports of a shooting overnight at a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs, Colorado. At least 5 people are dead, and another 18 so far are wounded. Police say the suspect was injured, is in custody, and is currently receiving treatment at a local hospital. The FBI is already on the scene and assisting local law enforcement. In a statement on their Facebook page, the club writes, "Club Q is devastated by the senseless attack on our community. We thank the quick reactions of heroic customers that subdued the gunman and ended this hate attack." Do stay tuned to NBC News for more updates on the shooting. You can get those at NBCnews.com as well. Turning now to politics. Republicans have taken back control of the House, squeaking into a narrow majority. But the biggest question after a disappointing midterm performance, the third disappointing election cycle in a row for the GOP, will Republicans rally behind Donald Trump yet again? 721 days before the next presidential election, Donald Trump became one of a small group of ex-presidents to announce he will again seek another term even after being defeated. Just one of those ex-presidents, Grover Cleveland, has been successful doing this. The timing of the announcement at his gated Palm Beach resort appears to be an effort to get ahead of several federal criminal investigations. And on Friday, in reaction, Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed a special counsel to take over investigations he was overseeing into the former president's role in the events leading up to the January 6th attack on the Capitol, as well as the former president's decision to retain classified government documents at Mar-a-Lago.
Based on recent developments, including the former president's announcement that he is a candidate for president in the next election, and the sitting president's stated intention to be a candidate as well, I have concluded that it is in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
The Attorney General's goal is to create some political distance between that investigation and obviously the Biden administration. That's the reason for this appointment. Jack Smith is a longtime federal prosecutor who has most recently been working at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Now, if Trump falters in his presidential campaign, there are a handful of Republican hopefuls that are ready to challenge him, including his former vice president, Mike Pence. Pence's new memoir, So Help Me God, actually was out, perhaps not so coincidentally, the same day that his running mate, Donald Trump, announced. And he describes Trump's pressure campaign in the book on him to refuse to certify the 2020 elections, which of course culminated when rioters threatened Mike Pence's life. I spoke to the former vice president at the Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California, and I began by asking him about his likely run for president. The former president has said it's disloyal.
And I do have a couple clips of Mike Pence, including a clip of Chuck Todd, where I'm going to, for the Chuck Todd haters out there, I'm going to show how Chuck Todd does a bad job of cross-examining Mike Pence when he claims that the Justice Department should have done more before serving a search warrant on Mar-a-Lago. If you look down at the descriptions or the summaries of the clips down in the video description, you'll see that is clip 11, but then clip 12, you'll see Margaret Brennan on CBS News' Face the Nation also doesn't really cross-examine former Vice President Mike Pence about what he claims the Justice Department should have done before serving a search warrant on Mar-a-Lago. He says there's a lot more stuff they could have done, but neither one of them asks, what are those things they should have done? But anyway, when I get to the last two clips, we can discuss that. Also, I wanted to thank Matthew for giving me that Super Chat contribution at the beginning of the broadcast. I don't get a lot of ad revenue. A lot of times I get demonetized and I have to appeal it. And, of course, I think the biggest support financially I get for doing this show every week is from the Super Chat contributions like I got from Matthew just now, and also my monthly patrons on Patreon down right under the video description. If you want to become a monthly patron on Patreon and you aren't already, that's at like the $5 and $10 level. I send you out the I send you this hashtag LiberalViewer weatherproof vinyl sticker that you can put anywhere. And I also send you this ACLU Constitution with a know your rights with the police section in the back. So yeah, if you want to contribute $5 or $10 either monthly on patron as a patron on Patreon or through PayPal, those are the first two links in the video description. I guess I should mention that because I'm planning on keeping on doing this live stream. I think I'm going to do it for a couple more years, all the way through 2024. I'll be talking about that more in the next couple months as we end 2022. But I think that I'm going to keep doing it through 2024 and see whether we still have a democracy after November 2024. Yeah, I mean, it's looking better than it did a couple months ago, so I guess we'll see. Anyway, you saw the ABC This Week with George Stephanopoulos news summary. You saw NBC News' Meet the Press. They both kind of covered the same topics. This one, the third one, of course, is the Fox News Sunday news summary. Shannon Bream, partisan hack, and their reporter Lucas Tomlinson talking about a lot of the same issues, but one of the things you'll notice is they spend a lot of time emphasizing that this weekend Joe Biden turned 80. He's an octogenarian. He's the oldest president. He'll be 82 in his second term. They say the word 80 or some variation of the word 80 5 times in this news summary. I mean, CNN State of the Union mentions it once coming up afterwards, but so I'm not saying it's not an important topic, but I think Fox News Sunday went overboard on the Joe Biden is 80. You can let me know what you think after we watch that clip together over here.
Hello from Fox News in Washington. We begin with news breaking overnight. 5 people are dead, at least 18 more injured after a mass shooting at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs. Police say a suspect is in custody and they do not yet know the motive. We'll bring you more on that as soon as we learn it. Here in Washington, President Biden returned from an overseas trip to a changed dynamic, one where Republicans are poised to return to power in the House, giving them leverage over Mr. Biden's agenda as he faces concerns about recession and questions about a second term. Among the challenges he'll face, tougher scrutiny of additional aid to Ukraine as Russia's war rages on. In a moment, we are joined by 2 top senators, Democrat Mark Warner and Republican Tom Cotton. But we begin with team coverage. Fox News senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palkot is live in Kyiv. First, though, to Lucas Tomlinson, live at the White House. Lucas.
Shannon, President Biden turned 80 years old today, becoming the country's first octogenarian commander-in-chief. But his birthday was not the main event here at the White House this weekend.
The big headline was the wedding of the president's granddaughter. But Biden's 80th, a reminder to Democrats that Biden would be 82 at the start of a potential second term. Biden says he intends to run again. On Capitol Hill, 2 Democratic icons who are also in their 80s, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, are stepping down from party leadership, paving the way for a younger generation of Democratic leaders. As Republicans get ready to take control in January, the GOP already promising to investigate the president's son, Hunter. Late this week, the president returned from an overseas trip and his first face-to-face meeting with Chinese President Xi, who has just been appointed to an unprecedented third term. Days later, Biden's attorney general announcing a new probe into the former president, appointing a special counsel explaining why it's needed.
Based on recent developments, including the former president's announcement that he is a candidate for president.
Trump's former attorney general, William Barr, weighing in.
I personally think that they probably have the basis for legitimately indicting the president.
The White House says it was not aware ahead of time, and the Justice Department acted on its own. Shannon?
Lucas Tomlinson, live at the White House. Lucas, thank you. We turn now to Greg Palkot, live in Kyiv. Hello, Greg.
So yeah, there was another little piece of video there showing that Fox News and the Rupert Murdoch empire is not a fan of, or is hoping that Trump is not going to be the Republican nominee. They're shifting towards other Republicans. That you saw the Bill Barr clip, that there's enough to indict Trump, though later I'm going to show you Brit Hume sort of claiming that that's not true for ridiculous reasons. That's clip number 10 if you're looking down in the video description for the clip summaries. But I did want to also mention that I think that Fox News, like I said before I showed the clip, really overemphasized Biden's age, the whole 80 octogenarian. I think they said the word 80 at least 5 different ways in that clip. I don't know if you think that is too much. You'll also see Jake Tapper in the CNN State of the Union news summary mention that Biden turned 80, but I think he only mentions it once, like a sane person would. Although this clip starts off with a video malfunction from CNN. As someone who plays the wrong clip a lot of times, although I'm getting better and better. I've got this. I'm pretty good at both producing this show, being doing the technical aspects of the show while also being the live on-screen narrator at the same time. I think I do a pretty good job of that, since there's nobody else here doing any, showing any of the clips. But anyway, here you'll see Jake Tapper do his news summary. I started it a little early so you can see that they ran the Inside Politics with Abby Phillips intro for State of the Union for no apparent reason, but I guess CNN isn't perfect, which I'll talk about a little more, or I'll talk about the news summary a little more after we watch Jake Tapper together over here.
Hello, I'm Jake Tapper in Washington, where the State of our Union is thinking there is so much fresh content, and yet we're about to watch a rerun. This morning, President Biden celebrates his 80th birthday. He says he's planning to run for a second term in 2024, and his opponent could very well be Donald Trump, who just announced he's running for president. He'll do that under the shadow of a brand new special counsel investigation, and if he wants, Trump can now tweet again after his ban was lifted. If all that sounds a little too familiar, there are changes coming to politics in Washington, D.C., specifically to the U.S. House. This week, Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the other 2 top House Democrats said they're going to make way for a new generation of Democratic leaders. Pelosi's decision brings to a close a consequential 2 decades of leading Democrats in the House. It also ushers in a relative youth movement. Pelosi, House Democratic leader Steny Hoyer, and Democratic Whip James Clyburn, all of them are older than 80. The members on track to replace them, Hakeem Jeffries, Catherine Clark, and Pete Aguilar, are in their 50s and, in Aguilar's case, 40s. Congressman Jeffries is currently running unopposed for the top job. In addition to being 30 years younger than Nancy Pelosi, he will be the first black American to ever lead a political party in the U.S. Congress. A former Brooklyn lawyer and the son of a social worker and a substance abuse counselor, Jeffries took office in 2013 and allied himself with Pelosi. He even nominated her for Speaker in the last Congress.
Let me be clear, House Democrats are down with NDP.
Jeffries will be, without question, the first congressional leader to ever paraphrase naughty by nature on the floor of the House, and he joins me exclusively now. Congressman, thanks so much. Congratulations on your...
Naughty by nature? Was that news? Is naughty by nature news? I'm not sure if that was more entertainment than news, but and I don't know, was that something you would say about anyone who wasn't like the first black leader of a party in the House of Representatives? I don't know, that was a little bit weird, the whole naughty by nature thing. But Hakeem Jeffries actually was a guest on a couple shows. I didn't take any clips of him. I think we're going to be getting a lot of clips of him, since he's going to be the new Democratic leader in the House. So hopefully I'll have a chance to show clips of him in the future, especially if I'm going to keep doing the live stream for another couple of years. But anyway, I want to finish up the news summaries. You can tell me which one you thought was the best. It probably was ABC or NBC, but anyway, here's Face the Nation with a really brief news summary about the breaking news in Colorado Springs before they go to their first guest, Rod Rosenstein, which is kind of a weird guest, but I'll talk about why he's kind of a weird guest after we watch that 33-second news summary from CBS News' Face the Nation together over here.
Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. There is some breaking news overnight from Colorado as we have learned that 5 people are dead and at least 18 others have been injured in a mass shooting at Club Q, an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs. Now, police say they do have the alleged shooter in custody and the FBI is assisting with the investigation. We begin this morning with former Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. He appointed Robert Mueller as special counsel for the investigation into Russian
So yeah, Rod Rosenstein didn't think that a special counsel should have been appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland to investigate Donald Trump, both in terms of the January 6th his involvement in the January 6th insurrection, and of course the Mar-a-Lago document case. And probably the Mar-a-Lago document case is the one that will be getting indictments before the end of the year, maybe. That's sort of my semi-prediction, but I don't really make predictions in my live stream here, but well, except occasionally when I do. But anyway, you saw the big 5 corporate outlets, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox News, and the different ways they summarize the news of the week. You can let me know, having juxtaposed the 5 news summaries, which one you think is best or worst. Or, well, of course, Fox News was the worst one, I think, in terms of if any sort of journalistic measure. That's pretty clear, and it's because Fox News is not a journalistic outlet. If you read The Loudest Voice in the Room, this book over here by Gabriel Sherman, Roger Ailes created Fox News to be a propaganda arm of the Republican Party, and that's what it's turned out to be. And or if you watched my YouTube channel for the early years, going back to July 2006, you saw Greg Palkot there in the Fox News Sunday News. He was over in Kyiv reporting from Ukraine. Greg Palkot actually appeared in my very first LiberalViewer video back in July 2006. If you want to go to my channel and really engage in nostalgia. But I made over 200 examples of Fox News bias, so I think we can all agree the most biased non-journalistic news summary was the one from Fox News. Which one was best? Probably ABC or NBC, but you can let me know what you think in the comment section. Now I'm going to get to my newsmaker clips. The first one I want to show you is Representative Adam Schiff on ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos talking to Jon Karl here. It starts off, Jon Karl asks Representative Adam Schiff both about Trump's return to Twitter and the appointment of the special counsel, and I will talk about that a little more, including what's missing from Trump's Twitter account, because I looked and there are a few really important tweets missing, and I'll talk about what's missing after we watch Adam Schiff's discussion with Jon Karl together over here.
Thank you for joining us. I want to begin with the news overnight that Donald Trump has been reinstated by Elon Musk on Twitter. Watching the January 6th committee hearings, Trump's tweets were a big part of the story to be told. What do you think of him being back on Twitter?
I think it's a terrible mistake, and you're absolutely right. As we showed in the January 6th hearings, the president used that platform to incite that attack on the Capitol. His comments about the vice president, his own vice president, put Mike Pence's life in danger. He showed no remorse about that. He continues to lie about his actions on that day. He talks about pardoning the people who attacked police officers and attacked the Capitol that day. And it contradicts what Elon Musk said, that he was going to establish a council to evaluate this, and further contradicts Musk and his claimed concern about bots on his own platform, to subject the decision to a poll on a platform that could be easily abused that way. It just underscores the erratic leadership of Twitter now under Musk, but also the security concerns with security people fleeing Twitter and what that means for the protection of Americans' private data.
Yeah, he did it with that snap poll, and even then the vote was 52 to 48, close. But let me move on to the Merrick Garland's decision to appoint a special counsel. Was this the right move?
I think it is the right move. You make a decision like this not because you think you're going to persuade the former president you're doing the right thing, or even his most extreme supporters.
They're still going to say it's political.
They're still going to say it, but it's the right thing to do, and most particularly if you ensure that it won't cause any delay. So if the same prosecutors that have been investigating the former president and others can be moved onto the special prosecutor's team, then there's every reason to do it, no reason not to do it. And I think the person he's chosen seems to be eminently capable and qualified. My concern, frankly, has been leading up to this point, which is they were very slow at the department to work up the multiple lines of effort to overturn the election. It took them a long time to get started, and the delay has already been baked in. I hope that the special prosecutor will move with alacrity and fulfill the commitment Merrick Garland made at the outset, which is that everyone will be treated equally under the law, and that includes the former president.
Because, I mean, the timing is extraordinary. You really could have, if he gets indicted, a trial and a presidential campaign happening at the same time.
You could. And, look, for 4 years when he was president, the department took the position, which I think is flawed as a constitutional matter, that you can't indict a sitting president. You can't now take the position, well, you also can't indict a former president who wants to run again. Otherwise, that president becomes above the law, and the founders would have never subscribed to that idea.
What does this mean about?
Yeah, and I think when I get to the last two clips, Mike Pence claiming that the Justice Department shouldn't have served the search warrant on Mar-a-Lago, and we have to, we should be circumspect about prosecuting a former president, and I totally agree with that, with what Representative Adam Schiff said there, that, there's this flawed Department of Justice memo that they apparently adhere to, claiming they can't indict a sitting president. But then if you also, don't go after former presidents or former presidents who are running to be president, I mean, Trump gets to be above the law because there are obviously a lot of crimes that there's at least more probable than not that he committed those crimes. And I've talked about this months ago when, after the Mar-a-Lago search warrant, the January 6th thing is a little more complicated, but the Mar-a-Lago sensitive documents, National Defense Information case is, it's pretty cut and dried. It's pretty easy. And like I said earlier, I don't normally make predictions, but I would predict late in 2022 or early 2023, this new special counsel, Jack Smith, is going to get indictments against Trump for the Mar-a-Lago documents case. That's going to be in the next, before the end of the year, or maybe at the very beginning of next year. That's my prediction in a show where I say I don't really make predictions. And I was going to show you some tweets that were no longer on Donald Trump's Twitter feed, but it wasn't Adam Schiff that mentioned one of those tweets. It was actually Adam Kinzinger. I got my two Adams mixed up, so I'm going to wait till after the Adam Kinzinger discussion here with Jake Tapper on CNN's State of the Union. This is a very similar discussion to what we just saw, both about Trump's return to Twitter and the appointment of the special counsel. You'll see Jake Tapper starts off with a slight introduction here before discussing it with Adam Kinzinger, and I'll talk about that a little more and show you some Trump tweets that aren't there anymore, even though Trump is back on Twitter, after we watched that clip together over here.
Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm Jake Tapper. Here we go again. Former President Donald Trump is free to tweet after Twitter's owner, Elon Musk, lifted a ban on Trump's account based on the results of an internet poll. Trump, of course, was banned from Twitter after the January 6th insurrection for violating the company's policy against glorification of violence. Joining us now to discuss, January 6th House Committee member, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. So Trump was taken off Twitter in the first place for inciting the violent insurrection against the Capitol. You're a member of the committee investigating the insurrection. What do you make of Elon Musk reinstating Donald Trump?
Well, look, I mean, I get that people are on all sides of this debate. The fact that he did it with a poll of which, however many % of those could have been bots that aren't real people voting in that. Secondarily, I don't know if, that decision should be made by some poll. I mean, what happened, if remember specifically when this was all done, so not only was he lighting and accelerating the fire on January 6th, also before January 6th with his conspiracies, at the end of the day, he said, this is what you get when a victory is so unceremoniously basically taken away from the American people. So not only when it was done did he have any remorse, he said, well, of course you guys had an insurrection because that's what you get when you steal an election. I mean, I remember seeing that specific tweet and just being outraged at how after all this is done, can you still do that? And so now this idea that he's going to come on and be reformed, everybody knows he won't. And by the way, I'll say as a quick aside, the person probably the most upset today is Devin Nunes because this is going to tank Truth Social if he does in fact leave.
On Friday, Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed a special counsel to oversee the investigations into Donald Trump's handling of classified documents, as well as the one looking at his role in the January 6th insurrection. You have expressed frustration with the Justice Department's approach to Trump in the past. Do you think this is the right move?
I'm going to have to leave that to the experts to decide if this was the right thing, because I don't know where the Justice Department is in their investigation. Let's say, for instance, they were very close to indictment, and then they switch to this because he's running for office, then I think that's an unnecessary delay. But then again, if we're trying to do the best we can to take politics out of it, first off, there are a lot of people that will never be satisfied that there's no politics because that's how they frankly raise money, is to convince people that there's some conspiracy out there. But I think what we're going to be able to judge us by is what the ultimate outcome is. Will this special prosecutor get to, or independent counsel get to a belief that he was guilty or not? Will be based on the evidence and what will be the result of Donald Trump. But look, if the former president thinks that just by simply announcing he's running for president, he can obstruct justice, I mean, that would be a bad precedent, of course, because then anybody that's under investigation could just announce they're running for president in this country.
The January 6th committee is going to wrap up its work by the end of the year, and it seems likely you'll have to do so without hearing from former Vice President Mike Pence.
So, yeah, there was Adam Kinzinger, and did he mention in that clip, did I take the clip where he said that he was just disturbed by what Donald Trump posted at the end of the January 6th insurrection? It's one of the missing tweets. If you go to his Twitter feed, this clip, or sorry, this tweet from January 6th, and by the way, down under sources in the video description, I put this UC Santa Barbara Presidential Records Project that has cataloged all of Trump's tweets, the ones that are no longer there, and also the ones that now have been reinstated. But here, this is something that he tweeted on January 6th that's not on his Twitter feed anymore. These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever. Yeah, if you actually go to Trump's Twitter feed, there are a couple tweets from around 3 o'clock where he says to, like, don't go after the police, like, respect our law enforcement, law and order, and that gives kind of a false narrative of what was really on Trump's feed at the time. It doesn't show this. And of course, the one of the most damning tweets that has been deleted from January 6th is this one. The Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth. And Trump actually tweeted that after he already knew that Mike Pence was under threat, that there were people like chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," and going after Mike Pence in the Capitol. That tweet came after that. That was one of the most damning tweets, and that one's gone. And of course, I went back, I scrolled back into Trump's tweet timeline, and the one from December 19th, this one, the Peter Navarro releases 36-page report alleging election fraud, more than sufficient to swing victory to Trump. A great report by Peter. Statistically impossible to have lost the 2020 election. Big protest in D.C. on January 6th. Be there, will be wild. The famous will be wild tweet. It's been deleted. That's like fake news, lack of history. I mean, that kind of shows consciousness of guilt, if you ask me, but you can let me know what you think down in the comment section. And one of the worst, other than the two Mike Pence clips I'm going to show you at the end about the Mar-a-Lago search, here you're going to see like a really bad analysis from Fox News Sunday's partisan hack host Shannon Bream and their long-time partisan hack senior political analyst Brit Hume. They get together and totally downplay the legal criminal liability of our former president Donald Trump. Here you can see Brit Hume actually claiming in this clip that it makes the Mar-a-Lago search makes Democrats look bad, and the appointment, the thing that is most galling here is Brit Hume says, the appointment of a special counsel for Trump is fine, but what about a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden? Not even, and neither Brit Hume nor Shannon Bream mentioned that the U.S. attorney in Delaware who's investigating Hunter Biden was appointed by Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. And Joe Biden did not fire the U.S. attorney in Delaware who is investigating Hunter Biden. It's a Donald Trump appointee still on the job, and that seems pretty fair in terms of conflicts to me, but that never comes up in this clip that I will talk about with you a little more after we watch it together over here.
Last spoke, the Attorney General has announced there will be a special counsel picking up a couple of these investigations into the former president with regard to January 6th and those documents at Mar-a-Lago. The former president talked about this on Friday night. He said, what about all these other presidents who have taken documents? Why aren't they being investigated? And he added this.
Of course, Hillary Clinton, where she illegally deleted 33,000 emails after getting a top-level subpoena from the U.S. Congress. So she's allowed to get a subpoena and delete 33,000 after the subpoena, not before, after.
So, Britt, he knows that there is this sense among a lot of Americans that there is a double standard when it comes to how justice is being meted out by the Justice Department and other places. Is he going to be able to turn this latest development into an actual political gain in some way?
Well, he will with his hardcore supporters, Shannon, who basically there is a set of voters within the Republican ranks who think the president is the best president in history and basically that he can do no wrong. Their ranks, I think, are much smaller than the number of people who voted for him when he ran in 2020. and much smaller than the number of people who will vote for him now. But nonetheless, anything that happens to him will make him seem, in their eyes, a martyr. Now, I think it was entirely appropriate for an independent counsel to be appointed in his case. But I would say that for the Justice Department to do that, for the Attorney General to do that, while leaving the president's son's investigations and those associated with him to be handled by Main Justice, it seems to me, is a problem, because the reason you appoint independent counsel is if there's a conflict of interest. There certainly is where Mr. Biden and Attorney General Garland are concerned, and therefore an investigation of Mr. Biden's family would seem to fall under the heading of something that would require that, but they haven't done it. That opens them up to, I think, reasonable criticism.
So while we're talking about 2024 in the context of the former president making another run at it, the American Spectator has this headline. It says, it isn't time to care who the 2024 nominee is. They say Republicans have got to figure out how to get together this ground game on the issue of early voting, mail-in ballots, drop boxes. They say it's like handcrafting widgets while your opponent is shipping in mass-produced ones from Chinese slave labor sweatshops. You can't win that game. It's time to demand that
Chinese slave labor sweatshops. I had to keep it running through that. They're talking about this thing that a lot of local grassroots organizers that I work with do, where they make sure that people who want to vote have a way to get their ballot into the ballot drop box. There are some people who need help. You go out and you collect the ballots from people who have voted and bring them to the drop box. And Republicans call that ballot harvesting and make it seem like it's some nefarious thing that is illegal, which it's not. And now finally they're saying maybe we should do that too. We should get our voters who aren't going to get their ballot to the drop box or to the wherever, that we'll go pick up their ballots too. And there's something nefarious going on, which there isn't. But you saw there that Britt Hume claimed that there should be he said an independent counsel, not a special counsel, independent prosecutor, which hasn't existed since the Clinton years. There's no independent counsel law anymore. It's now a special counsel appointed by the Department of Justice. And you saw him claim there that the whole mar-a-lago search warrant thing, and that there was some sort of the double standard of justice. That's the thing that just kills me. There's two standards of justice: the Democrats and Republicans. No, it's rich people who are guilty get treated better than poor people and people of color who are innocent. That is the double standard in our justice system. And that's the thing that also I find so disturbing about what Mike Pence says in these last couple newsmaker clips I'm going to show you. They went too far with Donald Trump by serving a search warrant on his house, even though the place that law enforcement goes too far isn't with rich white people like Donald Trump, after spending a year trying to find some way to get him to respond without any coercion to returning the records he stole when he left the White House. They finally served a search warrant on Mar-a-Lago and got some of those records that were illegal for him to keep. But Mike Pence seems to think that the real crime was doing, the search warrant itself, which a judge signed off on, remember. But remember I said I was going to show Chuck Todd on NBC News' Meet the Press doing a bad job of cross-examination, but also Margaret Brennan in the subsequent clip also doesn't follow up, because you'll see, especially in this first clip, Mike Pence says, I was in Congress and oversaw the Department of Justice for 10 years, and I know they could have done a lot more things before the search warrant. But Chuck Todd never, he does sort of briefly say, well, they waited a year, they tried for a year, so he gets credit for that, but he never really asked, well, what more should they have done? Mike Pence has this like weird talking point. They could have done more, but neither Chuck Todd nor Margaret Brennan asks, well, what more could they have done? What should they have done? What can you be specific what they should have done? That was never a follow-up in either of these last two clips, starting with Chuck Todd on NBC News' Meet the Press yesterday, that I will talk about a little more after we watch together over here.
Welcome back. Central to the special counsel investigation will be Trump's removal of government records, at least 300 with classified markings at his Mar-a-Lago home. In the affidavit used to obtain the search warrant in August, federal prosecutors cited an obstruction of justice statute because Trump evaded a subpoena for months. Justice was trying to do this without the FBI. And as well as a section of the Espionage Act, which makes it illegal to possess national security documents, which could be obtained by a foreign power. On Friday, Trump's former Attorney General Bill Barr said he actually believes the Justice Department probably already has the evidence they need to indict Trump. But in my sit-down with Pence, taped on Thursday, the day before the special counsel announcement was made, the former vice president struck a different tone.
I've not hesitated to criticize the president when I think he was wrong. And clearly possessing classified documents in an unprotected area is not proper. But I have to tell you, I was on the Judiciary Committee for 10 years in the House of Representatives. I know how the Justice Department works, and there had to be many other ways to resolve those issues and collect those classified documents.
They tried for a year.
They didn't try everything. And I have to tell you, going to the last resort of executing a search warrant against a former president of the United States, I think sent the wrong message. It was a divisive message in this country. But I think worse still, it was the wrong message to the wider world that looks to America as the gold standard. And
doesn't it send the message that nobody's above the law in
this
this country, that our democracy is so strong
it
can handle the idea that if former presidents commit a crime,
but Chuck,
they don't get a pass.
But Chuck, you follow foreign affairs as close as anybody in your business, and it's much more commonplace in the third world that when one leader comes in, then they prosecute and jail their previous leader. America should never be associated with that image at all, and I truly do believe and hope that the Justice Department will give careful consideration to any further steps in that light.
You must have really not liked it when the president...
And then Chuck Todd goes on to ask him about the president, or the former president, Donald Trump, asking the IRS to do audits of people, like all sorts of illegal stuff that Trump asked for. You know, it wasn't that bad, but never really follows up on what Mike Pence said there, that, the Justice Department, I was on the Judiciary Committee in the House for 10 years, and I know the Justice Department, and they could have done a lot more before that. And Chuck Todd did say that, they tried for a year, but he said there was a lot more they could have done, but no questioning as to what it was. And actually, Margaret Brennan didn't do that much better of a job. I'm criticizing Chuck Todd, but Margaret Brennan on CBS News' Face the Nation let former Vice President Mike Pence get away with kind of the same talking points, and the whole thing about, we're a third world country if a former president is prosecuted. Well, that's happened in some, first world countries. What about Berlusconi in Italy or Netanyahu in Israel? Those aren't third world countries. I mean, there's a lot of corruption in the first world, and if that corruption makes it to the executive branch, it should be prosecuted. But anyway, I'll talk about that a little more after we watch this final newsmaker clip. Mike Pence, former vice president, getting away with kind of the same Justice Department went too far, but no specifics about what they should have done when Trump was obstructing justice by not returning documents that belong to the government and lying about it. But anyway, here's Margaret Brennan sort of doing the same thing Chuck Todd did in the last clip, in the final clip that we will watch together today over here.
You also think the FBI executing a search warrant to take classified material from the former president's home was not the way the Justice Department should have handled it. But to be clear, Were you ever personally concerned about Mr. Trump's handling of classified information?
I don't recall ever being concerned about the president or anyone in our administration's handling of classified information, at least among the senior staff, of which I had regular contact.
But if he had, he would be prosecuted, you would think.
Well, let me say, no one is above the law. But as someone that served on the Judiciary Committee for more than 10 years, having oversight over the Justice Department, I just think there were many better ways to obtain those classified materials from Mar-a-Lago than to execute a search warrant against a former president of the United States of America, something that had never happened in American history, Margaret.
And never been prosecuted. Do you think that should happen?
Look, my hope is that the Justice Department will think very carefully about next steps. I mean, this is a very divided time in the life of our nation. I think our nation needs to heal. But the idea of executing a search warrant against a former president of the United States sent the wrong message to the American people, and frankly sent the wrong message to the wider world that looks at the United States of America as the standard. And that was my disappointment in the decision to execute a search warrant.
So yeah, that was the final clip, and like I said, even though I didn't think Chuck Todd did a great job of cross-examining former Vice President Mike Pence on that whole, the Justice Department could have done more, well, Margaret Brennan also didn't do that great a job. And I saw in the live comments during that last clip, I got another big super chat contribution from, I don't know how to pronounce this person's name. Is it Emacmule? I don't know. But I really appreciate the $50 super chat contribution. I see later you put a comment in the live viewer chat there that please continue your work, Liberal Viewer. It's not often that wife and I can tune into the Monday live show. Well, I know I have a bunch of recorded show viewers who watch over the couple days after I do the live stream, and sometimes it's more recorded show viewers, sometimes it's more live stream viewers, but I appreciate all my viewers, and I hope my viewers appreciate the 10 or 12 hours it takes me to watch the shows and capture the clips and get ready for the live stream, and then to perform the live stream takes an hour or so, and altogether that's like 10 or 12 hours a week I put into this. And so I appreciate the support from that super chat contribution. And like I said, if for other people who want to keep me doing this for another couple years, down under the video description, the first couple links are to one-time PayPal contributions or monthly Patreon patrons. Those are the things that really keep me going in addition to those super chat contributions. But yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I apologize for not being able to pronounce your username correctly, I'm sure. But anyway, those are the last of the newsmaker clips. I saw some people talking about getting a puppy when I went down to get stuff off the floor. I think before the end of the year, I'm actually going to be able to replace all the flooring that's been damaged by my pets that died this year. Both my pets died this year, Dash and Sandy. I had Dash and Sandy clips for so many years. Well, I'm thinking maybe in like December or January, I think probably a new kitten before a new puppy, but there may be a new kitten coming in December and January to support my next 2 years of live streaming. So look forward to possibly a new kitten, or I don't know, I suppose we could get like a rescue cat that's not a kitten. That's not out of the realm of possibility, but I think there may be a new pet coming in December or January. I can't promise, but for the Dash and Sandy fans who are waiting for Dash and Sandy replacements, that nobody could ever replace Dash or Sandy, but we could still have a new kitten or a new cat. That's possible. So anyway, thank you for joining me. I will be back next Monday and every Monday at least through the end of 2022 and probably through 2024, as I'll be discussing in the next several weeks. And until next Monday, or until I have some reason to upload some other video, I guess I will be seeing all of you around the internet.